Hello, Steve. Hello, Joe. It's time to game classy.
Hello there, young man. What would you like for Christmas?
I'd like a Red Ryder BB gun and a whole fuck ton of BBs.
You'll shoot your balls off.
Oh no, not my balls.
We really shouldn't comment on, kids getting guns for Christmas at this podcast. That's a little inappropriate.
Is it?
Well, yeah, if you've been paying attention to the news, but welcome to America.
Yeah, exactly.
Born in the USA. I was born in the USA.
I was gonna say, do you consider something that's like a really common occurrence to be like, oh no, I'm so surprised this happened?
I know, but I mean, there's such a thing as tact. I know you're not the biggest fan of tact, but it is a thing.
I see. I mean, yeah, it's obviously fucking terrible, but it's like,
yeah,
it's really nothing else.
It happens quite a bit. It's all right.
Exactly.
I'm in like one of my it's like not like midwinter because winter hasn't even technically started, but it's like I'm at the start of that winter like angry depression that I get.
Isn't the seasonal? Oh, it's always wonderful. Isn't it winter now? I thought it winter started.
No, winter doesn't start till I think it's December 20th, or I think they use Christmas as like the beginning of winter technically, but it's like the 20th. Yeah,
I see.
Or right around there.
Usually for me, like, yeah, for me in my head anyway, I'm always just like, it is December, it is winter.
Yeah, I mean,
like, that's my go-to, I guess.
Like summer doesn't technically start till June 20th, so like that's like the start of summer when it's at the fucking equinox. At the summer equinox.
Right. Yeah, and then for me, it's the same thing where it's like
solstice, the summer solstice, not the equinox. Yeah. The equinox is in spring.
And for me, it's the same thing with summer, where it's just like it's just not summer until it's July, man.
Really, July is your summer? I always think the beginning of June is summer.
It just gets. I think. I guess whenever there's a really hot day is when I'm like, this is summer. Like when I go outside.
Yeah.
If I go outside and I start really sweating, I'm like, fuck, it's fucking summer.
When you start talking like an old Southern general, like, oh Lord, it's hot out.
Yes, exactly. And I'm like, this flower is in fact wilting.
Oh my stars.
Oh my stars. I feel like I'm wilting away. Yeah, that's absolutely when I think summer is happening. So I guess I shouldn't say like it's like hard and fast, but like usually, I mean, at least this year too, and from what I remember, usually there isn't like an extremely cold day before December. Like sometimes there is, like sometimes at the end of November there's like snow.
Well, I mean, shit, it snowed on Halloween 2 years ago. So.
Right, but it's not extremely cold when it's snowing. But yeah, I understand.
Yeah, that was a shitty Halloween. Let me tell you that.
It was really bad. Although a lot of Halloweens were ruined by rain. Like I remember vaguely, like there was like a really long string of years where like every Halloween got like rained out. It was ridiculous.
I blame climate change and the filthy rich.
Sure. Okay. That's fine.
You do you, Joe. You do you.
Yeah, you do you, Joe. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's you can blame climate change to the filthy rich, but there ain't shit you can do about it.
Because you know what the rich can do? The rich can just hop in their private planes and fly to a place that's not raining for Halloween. We can't. We as the plebeians can't do that.
That's true. Yeah, they can just keep moving. They can just keep moving to places where the weather doesn't kill them.
Yes, exactly. We can't do that.
Yes, exactly.
But you know what? We're from Chicagoland, so no matter what the weather, it's not going to kill us. We're just going to complain about it.
Yeah, this is true. We're robust, we're hardy, and we're bitching.
Yeah, you make it sound like you're talking about Garrison Keillor talking about Lake Wobegon. We here in Chicago are strong and helpful, and gosh darn it, we're gonna make it through this winter.
We're strong. We're robust.
That's the word. Yeah,
we're robust. We are able to handle it.
No, you'd have to
And
say the welcome to Chicagoland, where the men are strong, the women are robust, and the children are robust and strong. That's how he does. That's the Garrison Keillor right there.
all right, good. I'll try to remember that.
I don't know if you ever listened to Garrison Keillor, so
I have not.
yeah. I a long time ago, back before iPhones, I used to listen to Prairie Home Companion on public radio on Sundays when I'd be driving, and that's where I mean, I don't know. It was something that was on, and it wasn't like I just hate the thing I hate about terrestrial radio.
No, I'm confused because like there's a movie with that name.
Yeah, well, that's what the movie was based on. It was a stage show that lasted for years and years and years, and and that movie is a what's his face? Fucking the guy who did Nashville and Gosford Park and fuck.
Gosford Park. That's the one with the cover. That's the dude in the suit with the apple for a face, right?
I think you're thinking of that's a famous painting. It's not an apple on the face. That's yeah.
There's some movie that used that as its poster. I thought it was Gosford Park, but I might be wrong. I distinctly remember there was a film that used that piece of art as their movie poster.
Yeah, I think you're thinking of like Dada, like the artist.
Maybe.
Yeah,
it's possible. Yeah,
yeah, not necessarily the of Gosford Park. Why can't I think of his name? Fuck, he did Dr. T and the Women.
Dr. T and the Women. G and the Women.
Dr. T and the Women. Fuck. Altman. Robert Altman. That's his name. That's his name. Okay.
You gotta say it like a superhero. It's like, yes, that is Dr. T and the women. And the women. I'm a fan.
What was I going on that one? Oh yeah, Prairie Home Companion. Yeah, I used to listen to that like driving on the Sundays, and it was like the worst thing in the world, but also like simultaneously the best because it was all just like really incredibly shitty skits that weren't really that funny, but they were constructed well, and there would be like folk music. So
there is a word for what you're describing. I think that? Perhaps cringe kino.
Cringe kino.
Yes. So are you? I'm sure you have to know the term kino. Yes, maybe.
Kino, I think when I think of kino, I think of the Vegas game Kino.
Okay. So then that won't. It will be. So I don't know the origins of said word, but like film dorks on the internet refer to an extremely good film as kino, or possibly a television program, yada yada. It's a foreign word, I believe, that they basically just like, well, yeah, we're gonna use this, like whatever the case is. And it's like the I guess the translation is like it's like the highest of cinema. So like it became so overused, like kino became a meme. So you're just like, so you would just like use that, whether or not like kino is supposed to be something that was like reserved for something that's like, I mean, I hate to use it, and I hate to use it as an example because the movie's fucking shit, but like Titanic, because Titanic is like such a good movie, like everything is so good, the director, the actor, like when a movie is almost perfect and it hits every note, you would describe that film as kino. You'd be like, oh, it's pure kino. Like here's a good one. If you were like the Lighthouse, a lot of people would call the Lighthouse kino, I think.
Okay, so it's like the absolute best in terms of movies is what you're saying?
Kind of, sort of, or some sort of like exact. Hang on, let me see if I can get an actual
okay, I pulled it up here. It's the highest tier of artistry in motion pictures. Okay,
there you go.
I would not say that the Lighthouse is absolute kino. Okay. I think that when they talk about absolute kino, I think they're talking about like movies that are unassailable from any direction in terms of
construction,
criticism, I would say. So like, yeah. I unfortunately know you, so I know that there's no such thing as absolute kino, because I know you will look at a movie like Citizen Kane, which generally 99.99999% of the population absolutely will say is a perfect movie. And I know you say, nah.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no titties, there's no dick,
Exactly.
and there's no violence and blood.
Or The Godfather. You know, you will also say.
I'm going to be honest with you, Joe. I'm going to level with you, fucking 100%. I've never seen a single Godfather movie.
I know you haven't, but you'd still say it insists upon itself.
Yes. I'd be like, this film, while universally praised, truly does insist upon itself. Yep. I cannot award it the rank of Kino.
Yes. So like I understand the internet's term in Kino. However, I also know that the internet itself exists. And if people will like something, inevitably there will be one person who's just like, no, this is stupid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this thing too. I think it's hard for a lot of people to divest themselves from, like, it's like a weird thing, because I mean, I think it needs to be a trained skill, because like most people are just like, I like it or I don't, and then they'll rather than saying that, they'll convert that into it's good or it's bad.
Yes, that's always been, that's all. People who listen to this podcast know that's my absolute most hated thing in the world that people do. It's that when someone mistakes something mistakes liking something for something being good, like not the same thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, and also, I mean, good is, I don't even think I would use the term good. I think I would use well constructed or well crafted, because in my opinion, good, bad is an opinion. Like, it's good, it's bad. Like, you know,
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
I digress. Cringe Kino.
Yes.
Cringe Kino.
Yes.
So there's a recent scene from an upcoming Final Fantasy game, and it is the pinnacle of cringe Kino. This character is laying out like a big backstory to another character, and the blonde character is the other character, and then there's a girl who's laying out this big backstory, and she's like telling like this plot and like all this like expose of the storyline, and then the camera pans to the giant buff blonde dude in his like jacket, and he just goes, in reply to her like heartfelt like tear jerking story, he just goes, bullshit, and then he pulls out his fucking cell phone and starts blasting Limp Bizkit on his phone as he walks away. It is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen, and it is in fact what I would refer to as cringe Kino.
And this is why we need to take the internet away from people.
That's not the internet.
No.
That's actually a game.
No, I know it's the game, but I'm just saying in terms of like that being cringe Kino. That we have to take the internet away from people now. It's like we just got to start. I think that's what it's got to come down to, is there needs to be an independent judicial system in which we could just start taking away the internet as a right for people.
The only other things I can think of that are like definitely in that territory would be like, for most people, reality shows, reality shows where you're just like, this is awful, but like I just can't stop watching it because it's so addictive or whatever. I would say that would probably fall in the same kind of wheelhouse.
Probably, yeah. The only problem with the independent judiciary taking away the internet for people is like the backlog of boomers that we'd have to take the internet away from is way too big.
It's definitely huge.
We would never get to the people that we just have to take away for petty crimes. You'd
never get to the cringe Gen Xers or cringe millennials, because you'd never get through the boomers.
We'd have to wait. The cringe millennials, the boomer, by the time we got through the boomer backlog, all the boomers will be dead. Let's put it that way.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Yes,
you're right.
We'll still have that one person from the Greatest Generation who's hoarding butter containers, cleaned out at least, but they're plastic butter containers. They're hoarding them just in case. They're good for leftovers, but
that is the super real thing. The country crock, the country crock containers, like, man, that is legit. I don't know who started that or why, but man, what you just said is fucking, I've experienced that multiple times.
Oh, trust me. When my grandmother died years ago, close to 15 years ago, we cleaned out her place. It was just filled with plastic butter containers and takeout containers that had been cleaned, but just stored meticulously. But she just had them. But she was also a Depression era kid, you know, like she literally grew up in the Great Depression. I think she was like 5 or 2 or 3 when it hit. So she her formidable memories were in the Great Depression. So she actually she was psychologically screwed up for a long time because of that.
That's no big deal. I got Great Depression, so it's not like
fucking millennials. All right, so I actually don't have that much gaming stuff to talk about today, unfortunately.
I'm not gonna lie. Fortunately for myself, unfortunately for this particular podcast, the recent gaming thing that I've gotten super into is video game related. Unfortunately,
well, yeah.
But I would actually really like if so. It is not a game specifically. It's video game related. So I'll get into it in a second. But the first thing is I would really like to actually steal this dude's format and make my own YouTube channel, just doing what he's doing for myself, just changing it to tabletop games because I think it'd be sick. But I mean, it's a lot. He definitely puts in a lot of work. So the channel I'm referring to is a YouTube channel called Classic Gaming Quarterly, and it is a very unique channel that I just happened to fall upon because he's reasonably popular. He's got 134,000 subscribers, which is, it's obviously not nothing. It's fucking way more than we do. But yeah, by fucking a million billion, by a million billion, it's more than we do. But in terms of YouTube, that's very I would say that's
mid-tier.
I don't even think that would be mid-tier. It's exists, probably not going to stop, but not going to be doing it full time. That would be my stance. But anyway, I digress. That's the least important part. So he makes these just dry, extremely informative, well researched, very well produced videos that just are and there's someone who I turned on to this channel. You know who I did. You know who I sent this to.
Yeah, I know who you sent it to.
Pat B.
Yes.
And Pat B was just this is exactly what I've been looking for. And it is. It's just I've never seen a channel on YouTube present itself like that, because every YouTube quote unquote reviewer, they're always doing whatever stupid shit they can to get clicks or add in fart sound effects and stuff, which is fine, but that's common. This dude, he's got no jokes. He's got tons of editing. His videos are masterfully edited, but no goofy edits. There's no fart sounds, or it doesn't suddenly cut to Robin and go oh, he's caught Robin arrows in twain. It doesn't just randomly do edits that, which are funny, but his shit is legit. It feels like something. The way I described it is so he did he's done a coverage on every just about every classic video game system launching so far. He hasn't gotten into handhelds yet though, but I think. But so for example, he's doing talking about the launch of the Sega Genesis in North America. And it's just a huge video. It's just all the detail about that. And but that's legit all he talks about. So what it feels like to me is it feels like something that I would have seen as a kid as a special that was going to be something that was airing after the kid cartoon block, but before the evening adult programming schedule. So it would be make sure to tune in this week on Tuesday after Mighty Max when Bill Johansson talks about the amazing launch of the Sega Genesis. And then it would be a special that I would watch. It would only air once. It would never be back. You'd only see it again if they released it on home video.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me. And it's just really it's not ASMR, but it is ASMR. His cadence is real smooth.
Well, it's ASMR as it's supposed to be, which is just kind of really nice and soothing to listen to. I think that has been perverted in many ways into something that it's not really. Because sometimes when people talk like this, it's actually really grating and annoying.
or weird.
Or weird, yeah. But if a person talks at a normal cadence and they kind of just are describing things to you and you're like, this is informative and easy to listen to, that's what ASMR really is to me.
Right.
At least.
Yeah, no,
I mean, some people say it's like when you get goosebumps from listening to their voice, which that's fine too, but whatever.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. I always considered it something that's like supposed to help you relax and or sleep. And
yeah,
I can't do it when people are talking. I think that's off-putting to me.
Yeah, well, I always just look at it as it's something that's gonna lower my blood pressure when I watch it. Like I really enjoy, like my type of thing is I always call them like 6 a.m. shows, like, or let's for me it's actually like 4 a.m. shows. It's like when I for some odd reason get insomnia, can't sleep, and I'm up at 4 a.m. and I don't have to do anything until like say 7 a.m. That gives me 3 hours to kill. What am I going to do? I just go downstairs and I'll put on like YouTube and watch videos of binging with Bobish or Rick Steves Europe, shows like that are just very relaxing to watch, that are not
that to me also is ASMR. That's absolutely what it is.
Or what we were talking about with the like tool restoration videos.
Yes, where it's no talking, it's just the sound of like sandblasters and like water, and then like the kiln sometimes that like that like box kiln. I know a lot of that. There's a Russian dude who uses that a lot because of whatever kind of paint he uses on his, like, he restores a lot of like metal toys.
Yeah.
Or metal things, and like whatever kind of paint you use on metal toys, you have to like bake in a kiln or some shit. I don't know. It's weird. It's very glossy and shiny when he's done though. It's nice.
Yeah, I mean, I won't go into it, but yes, you do. Yeah, you do have to bake in an oven essentially. But yeah, we should create. You know what we should do? Be $1 million idea. We'll create a sandblaster that's specifically designed for minis. Okay. So it's a tiny sandblaster, like a little tiny one that you could like have on your desk, and you just got like a little tiny, like it's tweezer controlled. So you hold the figure in there and you just kind of go zzz, zzz, just to blast that fucking tester's enamel that fucking 8-year-old used to paint their fucking dark elves. So that way we can just go on from there, just sandblast it off. But of course, we create that, and then the first jackass will be, let's see if I could use this on plastic minis. And he puts the plastic in there and just like fucking explodes into 1 billion pieces as soon as the sand hits it.
I'm gonna use this on my balls.
At least one person has done that in their life.
Yes, absolutely.
And they no longer have balls, unfortunately.
I mean, they have the bloody remnants of them.
Yes. Well, I always, what you're talking about with that video game thing is like, I really like that for certain board games or tabletop games. Like if I'm getting into something, or if I'm about to play with some people, I want to watch videos that are going to kind of explain to me how to play the game. Right. And I also think that that's a positive thing for certain games when you can do that and it's very clear and concise. And then you're like, oh, I get that. It makes sense. When you're seeing like rule set for Horus Heresy Part 12, you're like, fuck, I don't have time to watch 12 videos about the rules of this game. Like, too many rules Games Workshop at that point. Too many rules.
Yeah, that's not great. I don't want to do that either.
Yeah. But but there are a couple guys who are able to do that and do it well. I always laugh at the guys who do videos of like news videos, kind of like the exact opposite of what we do, but like when they post, like some big news comes out and they post an immediate video and they're like, is this the end of Games Workshop? And then I always see that on my fucking Facebook feed, because of course Facebook, I need to get rid of Facebook. I need to. I only really have it for like just communicating with friends, but I just have it up there, and some mini stuff. I like posting pictures of minis and seeing pictures of posted minis. So it's like, it's great. But every once in a while in those groups that I'm in, like 3D printing or something like that, someone will inevitably post a video that they created that says like, is this the end of 3D printing? And as I always say, the only thing I do is I have a stock thing that I copy and paste and I just post every time I see one of those. And it's from Wikipedia, and it says Betteridge's law of headlines is an adage that states any headline that ends in a question mark can be answered with the word no. That's all I ever put. And inevitably, most of the time people just ignore it, like the people post it. But inevitably there's a guy that says like, but what if it's true? And I'm like, but it's not.
Don't make me tap the sign.
Don't make me tap the sign. It's not true at all. You're just trying to get clicks, which I understand. YouTube's algorithm is toxic. It is. Yeah.
The worst part is they keep I mean, because they're a gigantic company and have 95% of the market share, and I think we've discussed this before. Yes. They constantly are fucking with what they did right, and then like they fuck it up and then slowly roll it back or leave things that are bad and then like change it. Like it's funny because like, I mean, I've been a long-term YouTube enthusiast.
You are a long-term YouTube enthusiast.
And it's interesting to see the landscape and how YouTube has changed, because obviously it's completely user-based content. Like yes. Regular humans who are not necessarily associated to any sort of company are making the majority of content on the platform. And in most cases, if there is a company associated, it either is just like a TV company like ABC or whatever. So those they don't count because they're gigantic. So like they're going to be popular no matter what, because like old people are going to be like, I've got to catch my NBC updates not only on the television but on YouTube. But like the actual like creator content and seeing how that's shifted. Yeah. Like one of the original or older metrics like this, I don't know if you remember this, but one of the early pioneer era events for YouTube, which was like wild, was reply girls.
Oh God, I remember that. Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah. So like a lot of people don't even remember, but you used to be able to reply to a YouTube video with your own video, and it was like a super like popular and common use of the platform, because like you'd make a rebuttal video, like some like, so example, like if we were uploading to our YouTube channel way back then someone would be like he'd make a video that's like, these guys are fucking morons and here's why, and like he could directly reply that to our video. Mm-hmm. So anybody watching our video would then see his reply video and they could click on that and they'd see his thumbnail. So if anyone hasn't heard of this phenomenon before, it's fine. It didn't last super long, but it was, my God, was it prevalent.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's so fucking insane that people think that like they have any sort of control over the medium. Like people, when they're creating it's part of the reason why I hate fucking YouTube videos in general, 90% of the time, is because anytime you get close enough to being a big enough star on YouTube, YouTube will change it, because YouTube doesn't want YouTube stars. YouTube wants constant media being entered into the system. And so if they have someone who's too big and takes up all of that media share, they're not going to have other people uploading onto it. I mean, that's kind of a flawed theory in general, because people are just going to constantly upload videos to YouTube. But that's why that's why they constantly are changing that, so no one can get big enough to challenge the system. It's always got to be a constant content dump in order for it to work. It's why all of those things change their algorithm. Like people go, like, why do they change the algorithm? When you get less content that's good in that situation. It's like they don't want good content. That's the whole point. It's because if you get enough good content, they can challenge the system.
Yes. Well, what they did before is, because it was based on like clicking, I guess, I don't know. Yeah. So what these videos would do is like you would see a video that was popular, and it could literally be about anything. The only condition that matters is that the video was popular. So I would like find a video of, the hamster dance that's suddenly that's suddenly like skyrocketing in views, and it has become front page YouTube material. And what you do is you make a rebuttal video, you reply to this thing, and you have your cleavage like majority on display in the reply. So like basically like when the reply videos would load, you'd just see a bunch of thumbnails of boobs.
Yeah.
Then those would get clicked on, and like they were constant. It was like one of the most ridiculous things, but they were making a fuck ton of money because of the way the algorithm, not the algorithm, the way the payout structure was. This one wasn't algorithm, this one was payout structure. Because they set it up so that basically being a reply girl was incredibly profitable. So then that went away, and that changed things. And then also there was like a weird like sub effect where suddenly, like at one point, doing like once a week super long videos was like fine, and then they changed because it's like, okay, well, we're going to pay out based on clicks, and it's like, okay, well, that's not working, because then it's creating this weird like reply girl thing where you can just dump content, and as long as people are clicking on your boobs, you're making money. But our platform is just a bunch of girls with boobs saying things like, I don't know if I agree with that. Like that's it. And so we can't make it click. We got to make it, minutes watched. And then it's like, okay, well, that doesn't sound bad. But then you think about like, there was like that like small resurgence of wholly independent animators.
Oh yeah.
Existing on YouTube. And like, they were able to do that because they could spend like 3 or 4 months to make a 2 or 3 minute animated thing that was super successful, and then that would give them a ton of money, enough to like survive to make their next animated movie. But because they changed it to minutes watched, my video of me farting, drinking soda, and talking about butts that is super viral, but is a 30-minute video, and that I can upload every single day, versus your 2-minute video that you can upload once every 4 months. Guess who's getting paid more now? Me, because they changed the algorithm.
Oh yeah,
or they changed the payout structure.
But always they have to. My point is they have to constantly change, so that way no one becomes too popular. Like, and you can challenge the system when you get that popular. I mean, in theory, in reality, no one really cares. But
yeah, I don't think it's like that. I think it's just standard. I think it's just standard capitalism.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Because it's like we have 95% market share. Can we be satisfied with 95% market share? No. We have to figure out how to get 100% market share. So we've got to do a bunch of changes to our things that everyone already really likes, and then then we'll get that extra 100% market share.
But that's the thing, is that it doesn't matter, because even if a bunch of people already like that, when they change the system, people will just adapt to what the system becomes. Because
it changes the landscape, and it changes what type of content appears.
Yeah, and people don't care. People will watch anything. I mean, just look at.
Oh yeah, people will absolutely watch anything. But
just look at CBS's lineup, man.
Take that, CBS.
Take that, old people network. Now, speaking of streaming services, we've talked about how Warhammer Plus has been struggling lately. They've been, Games Workshop has tried everything. They've tried giving away a model for subscribing. Now they're doing a whole giving away a full army if you subscribe and shit.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. However, I have seen many of the videos on Warhammer Plus. They're actually pretty good. Like, it's a good system. I think you're paying a little much for it. But I think for what you're getting, it's really nice. I'm really happy with a lot of the shows I've seen on there.
All right.
Yeah. I think that their what's it called? Their battle reports are really good. Their masterclass videos are really good. Their the animation, the Angels of Death animation, were really good. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is the lore videos that they do. But I just don't like lore videos in general. Some of them I do. The problem is a lot of lore guys tend to become kind of shitty over time. Once again, it's that I think it's YouTube does a good thing by like changing the algorithm so that some of these guys go away, because when they become too popular, they just become kind of shitty, just shitty personalities.
You're not wrong. The ego pops out, and suddenly like they think that they're really, really fucking dope.
Yeah, see, that's why they got to get someone like me who has a lot of like Catholic guilt, So that way I
Mm.
could never become like a really, popular personality, because my brain just couldn't handle it. I would literally break down. I just like constantly apologize to people all the time.
Yeah, sorry about that, man. I didn't.
Yeah,
mean that.
yeah. I would just be terrified of every single thing I said, and being like, oh, well, this is it. This is it for old Joe here. He's done.
This is the end of the road for old Joe.
This is the end of the road. I can't handle it.
I love it.
Like in person, I could gauge a situation. Like I could talk with you, and I know that if I say something, I know like how you're going to react to what I say. All right. I tend to know my audience before I say stuff to it, with the prime exception of this podcast. But luckily, after doing this for 250 episodes, I know the 12 people that listen, so I can kind of cater my comments to those 12 people who listen.
Yes, hello.
Yes.
We know many of them. We know many of them by name.
Yes, I could. I pull out my list, and instead of like the long scroll that it's just like a little like, it's like that's my list right there of the 12 people who listen to the podcast.
Yes,
one
I like
page typed. And so it's like, yeah, I would never be able to be those people. Ooh, and also, the lore, and plus, like listening to lore videos, it's kind of like, I should just like read the stories that this lore is based off of, because that's probably going to give me more insight into this, instead of just like a guy saying like, here's a summary of this book. It's like, I'm never a big Cliff Notes fan. Just read the fucking book, man.
Yeah, to me, I've never been a big lore fan, just because it's more like I don't care.
Well,
like what the fuck do I like? I don't care about this.
Like I would be better served by someone saying, okay, so here's my lore video on Techless. Okay, so if you want to read up on Techless, here are the books you need to read. And then he just like lists the books and kind of says like, you need to read this because of this, you need to read this because of this, and you need to read this because of this. I'll be like, thank you, lore person. I'm going to go read those 3 books. And I would go read the 3 books. And then the next video is like, did you read the 3 books? And I'll be like, yes. And you'd be like, all right, so you read the 3 books. They're pretty cool, weren't they? And be like, yes, they were. Like, yay, that's it. The end.
Okay, yeah, I'm done with that.
Oh, well, another thing I wanted to mention about YouTube and Warhammer Plus in general is the fucking cinematography on battle reports is a fucking nightmare to watch. We have yet as a gaming community figured out how to do battle reports. Like I like Warhammer on Twitch and the Warhammer Plus system of the overhead shot of gaming, right? It's very nice for setup, like and to see play. The problem is that they leave it static too much, and it'd be nice to get like down on ground level, or at least like a 45-degree angle, so I could kind of get a better view of the tabletop. And then there are the people on YouTube who are using a handheld camera and moving it around like they are fucking Paul Greengrass doing the fucking Bourne movies. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, put the camera on a tripod and leave it, you jackass. It's like, here, I'm going to get a really close look down at this. No, I don't need to get that fucking close. Just give me a couple dynamic shots, and that's all I need. Don't fucking do this. You are Steven Spielberg. You are not. Jesus Christ, it makes me nauseous watching these videos. It's like all I want to see is a battle report of like Stormcast versus fucking, I didn't have Deepkin, and I gotta fucking like watch this like I'm like it's a Bourne movie, like shaky all over the place, can't follow the fucking action. What the hell's going on?
You were making out in Schindler's List.
Yeah. Like what I like what Warhammer Plus does really well is they have the guys playing the game, and then they have the commentators, right? I like that. I like the idea of commentators on a battle report, because they're able to look at things objectively and say like, oh, why is he doing that? I wonder what's going on there. Oh, this is what's going on here. He's doing this. The Warhammer Plus is not that great. But there's something to it. Like maybe the commentators need to be doing it afterwards so that they have an idea of what's going on, or they're able to, like, some sort of like talking head thing going on, because the way that they're doing it is not great. Like, it needs to be like explained, like the way of thought of what's going on with the player as they're doing it. So maybe you do it afterwards, like you have the commentators watching the game for the first time saying like, oh, he's doing this. You know, let's go to Steve and get an idea of why he did what he did right here. And I'd be like, all right, Steve, so why are you moving your death guard over this way instead of this way? And Steve would say,
man, I was so fucking hammered. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I ended up moving them I was gonna go like, I gotta go left, but I ended up going right, and fuck, man, I ended up winning. But I made that call because I was fucking drunk as shit.
I was drunk as shit. So you know, it would be like, so Joe, why did you make that move over there? And it's like, in all reality, I really don't know how to play these games.
I was just pushing the toys.
You know, I just wanted to make pew pew noises as I'm moving, and
I was just pushing the toys out, you know, and it was pew pew pew,
pew 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 pew. But isn't this really nicely painted? No, Joe. No, it's not. You think you're a good painter, but you're not.
But look, I painted his socks orange.
I painted his socks orange. You know what's something I can't paint? I've been trying to paint for a while and I can't paint. Oddly enough, I can't paint tiger stripes.
That shit's hard as fuck.
It really is. I've tried for many years to be able to do a tiger stripe, and every time I paint a tiger stripe, it looks horrible.
It's super hard. The only tiger stripes that I was ever able to successfully do were templates. Like spray templates. It was like literally like, put this over, spray this, put this over, spray this, and you'll have something that looks like tiger stripes. And it's like, oh yeah, it totally works. That was the only time I've ever been able to get it done, and it was only on tanks.
It was only on tanks. Yeah, I mean, I have tried for years to do somewhat realistic looking tiger stripes, and every time I do it, it looks like bad taxidermy as done by like some colonial oppressor in like the 1800s. Like, that's what it looks like.
You got a fucking Fiji mermaid.
Yeah. Well, no, it's like when you go to like the British Museum and you see like this tiger was stuffed in, you know, 1810, and you're like, ugh, that person's never seen a tiger in their life. You know, that's what my tigers ended up looking like.
This isn't even a tiger. This is a wallaby.
Someone painted on stripes on a wallaby.
Yeah, someone painted these fucking stripes on a wallaby.
It's not even a wallaby. It's like a nutria or something like that. Or what are those big rats called? Oh, those are nutrias, right? Yeah.
There's capybaras.
Well, yeah, or a capybara. How about that? It's like, it's just someone spray painted a capybara orange. They didn't even spray paint it. They used like orange acrylic paint.
Testers. They used orange testers.
God damn it. Get the Sandblaster. Get the mini Sandblaster.
Get the Sandblaster. We got to get an ASMR video going.
Get sandblasting a capybara painted to be a tiger. Oh, it all comes together on that one.
Viral YouTube video.
Oh my God. Yeah, I've been I'm trying to push myself back into painting. I've had it's been like 2 solid weeks of not being able to paint. Just it's just physically, I'm just like, I look at my models and I'm just like, I don't want to fucking paint you. I've been really trying to do I'm trying to get back into it, because it's hard once you get into that funk to get out of the funk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely know all about funks.
Yeah, you've been in the funk for like the last year and a half.
Although I think I've got a pretty good idea with my Stormcasts, and I don't think I need many more figures to make it happen. So I should be able to get it done.
Yeah,
my plan should work once I have all the, because the other thing that's like delayed any sort of progress on my Dominion stuff. In addition to the funk, which is definitely there, is that the army's not complete.
Yeah,
and because of what I picked up and how I wanted to paint the army, this is absolutely an army I'm going to do all at the same time. I'm not gonna. I don't want to paint it by pieces, because I'm doing the full contrast plan. Yeah, like the legit, like I'm doing the legit, like, spray the contrast base, do your contrast washes, do the appropriate highlights after the contrast wash, and you're done. That's the process I'm gonna go with for the start, because I only did that for a couple figures towards the end of my Nurgle army, because obviously I'd been painting everything else the standard way for forever. And then contrast paints came out, and I was pretty much done with my army. I painted the worm spat with the contrast method. And then like when I looked at like the worm spat figures versus the Blight Kings, I followed the Duncan Rhodes Blight King guide to paint my Blight Kings. And yeah, that's why they looked good. So I just followed the Duncan guide. I was just like, I'm just going to do exactly what he said. So that's why my Blight Kings ended up looking really nice, because I literally just beat for beat just did what he said, and they ended up looking really, really good. However, it was very labor intensive, because he had tons of like, do this water down wash in this kind of area, then edge it with this, that he had tons of stuff like that. And it looked really cool because the bruising effects that you got were like really awesome. And like their skin looked really like gross, but had a lot of depth to it. So it looked nice. Not complaining about the end result. They looked nice. But when I held up one of my worm spat figures that I painted using the contrast method of just spray, contrast, do highlights, versus the model that I know took me a super fucking long time following Duncan's guide, I was just like, yeah, like no doubt the Duncan guide model like is a technically better model. Like looking at the paint job, like the model is technically it is more proficient, but like on the table and in terms of like at a glance, they were almost as good as each other.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that's what it comes down to, is like any paint job on the table, as long as you put somewhat of an effort into it, is gonna look just as good as the person who put a fuck ton of effort into their model, unless they're in that weird like they've broken through that barrier of like, because there's a barrier. I believe that there's like, you know how in Star Trek 5 there's the barrier to like the center of the universe, and they break through it so that they can go shoot God in the face with the photon torpedo. There is
sounds
a
like
barrier.
The plot of a JRPG.
What's that?
So that sounds like the plot of a JRPG.
I mean, it kind of is. Actually, if you watch Star Trek 5, surprisingly, it is kind of like a JRPG.
I believe. I mean, like the boss, the boss scenario you already described. Yeah, straight
shooting
up.
God in the face with a photon torpedo.
Yeah, that is. I mean, the entire plot of every Shin Megami Tensei game that exists is you're killing God.
Yeah. But this and what was I going to say? Oh yeah, in painting there is a barrier when you're painting. Like no matter, like most mid-tier painters at the end of their painting life will only achieve like just touching the barrier. Like I know personally of maybe 3 people who achieve past this barrier, like just in terms, like I can, you know, I could name them. You know them. No one else who listens to this podcast knows them. But like, yeah, I know like 3 people who I'm like, they have surpassed the barrier. And that is when you paint well enough that even your basic stuff could win any staff in any store painting competition. And you could compete in Golden Demons. So like,
yes.
So like myself, I am not past that barrier at all, period. I have come to the conclusion that, yeah, I will say I am a top tier mediocre painter. like anybody like will come up and they'll be like, oh wow, your stuff looks really nice. Like, thank you. I will never win an award for it, but
yeah,
you know,
I think this is a good spot to be. And then I think it's a very achievable spot, because that's where I basically plant myself too. Like, yeah. Just like it's like yeah, I mean, I can do the things I can do, and I can do the things well, but I believe, because both, like, for all intents and purposes, I believe you and I have had the exact same trajectory of painting, like, for the most part, because like it's just became about it. I mean, what mattered to me the most in painting when I was working at the bunker, I think it was the same as you, fucking getting that shit done as fast as possible, but not looking like garbage.
Yeah, just because I just wanted to get it done. I didn't want to paint any more of the store's shitty stuff that would be abused by customers, then sold off by crooked managers.
So with that being the case, like, I mean, everything was about speed. So like now I've got like a pretty good, like, I can bang out stuff fast. Like that's absolutely something I can do. If you want me to like fucking wet blend a face, yeah, ain't gonna happen, bro. We're out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on a model right now that I'm taking some time on, and I'm actually doing some nice blending and shit with. So I'm gonna be because I really think that that's gonna get me out of my painting funk, is to literally spend some time on something and do something that looks really, really pretty, so that way I could be like, happy and proud of my work again. Something like that, something that I could take pride in. So that
personally,
way
I think that barrier is not breakable by most people on their own. I think you have to have someone teach you how to break that barrier.
Oh yeah,
because like I read how to I was trying to do when I painted I tried to paint a competition model. I shouldn't say I tried. I successfully painted a competition model. It ended up looking pretty good. I got like, I think I was in like third or second in the end. Like I think I was like the final reviews. I think I ended up in like second place, which is nice. I mean, I was super happy with it. I entered it because I wanted to try and get the prize. Obviously, I didn't really care about being the best painted. I was just like, I mean, I'll take a free battle force.
Yeah.
Like that seems good. So I ended up in second place with it, which was nice. Like I felt great. I was like, oh cool. I actually really worked hard on this model, and I didn't just I made it. I almost won, which was sweet. And one of the things I did, I was painting, it was an Eldar model. It was when they did that box set of the lady who came with the cat, and then there was the dude with the sword.
Yeah.
The really cool looking dude with the sword. So I painted the really cool looking dude with the sword, and I tried to follow the masterclass wet blending on his sword. They had a guy like GW had an official like wet blending, like golden demon level. This is the way to do this sword, like fucking with a big dick blending essentially.
Yeah.
And like I tried to follow that guide like verbatim. Like I shit you not, I followed that fucking guide verbatim, and like his sword looked like shit. It looked awful, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I followed this exactly. Like I like looked back, and I was like, yeah, I did the exact same. I did the watering down, the exact ratio they said. I applied how I just couldn't get like, because I'd never done the like actual mechanical process of like doing that style of blending before. So like for whatever reason, like I couldn't bridge that gap, and it was because I was just listening to a video. I can't ask the video questions, and it was a super complicated process. So what I ended up doing is like the sword looked like fucking ass. So I just did. I was like, whatever, I'll just do it myself. And like I did my own version of the sword that was not wet blended, but I did like effects, and then I did I glossed it up at the end so it looked real shiny.
Glossed it up.
I glossed it up. And like, I mean, at the end, I was very happy. Like, don't get me wrong, I was very satisfied with the model. I thought I think it's still probably one of the best single painted models I've ever done, just in general. So I was super happy with it. But like, I couldn't cross that gap of like my skill set into the like appropriate, this is what you need to do to start winning painting competition skill set, like blending and that kind of shit. I just couldn't do it. And like I tried more than once, and like it's something that I think I could do, but I would legit need like someone to like sit down with me, like maybe for like a whole week, and just be like, I'm going to teach you how to paint.
Well, I know for a fact 2 of the 3 people that I mentioned earlier who could break that barrier have their college degree in art. So
so someone trained them to do that. Like
they have an art degree. They weren't trained on miniatures, but they were trained in like painting, and they applied that to miniatures. Right,
exactly. I learned all of my art theory and all of my art and everything from painting.
And YouTube.
and YouTube. Yeah. There's some good videos out there, man.
Yeah, and you know what? You want to know what the plebeians are really into right now?
I'm ready.
Yeah, and I know the plebeians are into it because my buddy who does a lot of he's my Star Wars friend. He only likes Star Wars, right?
I only play Star Wars games.
He doesn't even play the Star Wars games. He just collects the figures so he can.
That's awesome.
Because he loves Star Wars that much. He sent me a picture of a Boba Fett bust that was cell shaded. And he's like, this is a really fantastic paint scheme. And I'm just looking, I'm like, fuck. I'm like, yes, cell shading looks really great. It's a bitch to do though.
It is super hard. Yeah, it's super hard. That was the big there's still like that there's only a couple guys who do it, but there's still that one like fucking master Gundam painter.
Yeah, the Gundam guys do it, and it looks fucking fantastic.
So good. There's a dude who he did one, he set it up where he takes pictures of it, and like he actually used he used a combination of forced perspective and different sized Gundam parts. So like when you actually look at the figure itself, like if you look at it as a 3D object, it looks really goofy because it has the one, because Gundams are scaled. So there's like 1/144 scale, and then there's 1/100 scale. Obviously, one's getting bigger. There's many more scales, but those are the two that I'm going to reference here. So what he did is he had a 1/144 body, but he had a 1/100 leg, so that was going forward, and then he had a 1/100 arm, and that was going forward. And when he took his pictures of this figure in the poses he set up, it exactly mimicked some frames from the show, but it also fucking looked exactly like the fucking show because of how he painted it. Like he even did the hatching, where, because this was from original Gundam, so that was from the late 70s. Like it had like all of the hand drawn stuff that looked like any pencil artifacts left over that weren't erased. It looked amazing. But when you actually looked at the figure, he then posted up a bunch of pictures of the figure from like unflattering angles. It looks so ridiculous.
Oh yeah, I really think it's part of that thing we were talking about earlier. Like, why are we painting? You and I think are army painters. Like, we like having a fully painted army. Like,
yes, absolutely.
We might like to have like one or two, odds or ends that are in our collection, but we really like it to be part of like a bigger thing because it looks better that way. Yeah,
absolutely. I want an army painted.
Yes, I want to see my army. I don't want yes, my bloodthirster looks nice independently.
That's a good name for this episode. I want to see my army.
I want to see my army. I want to see the puppet. Show me the puppet, you coward.
Yeah, you have to do the Werner Herzog voice. I want to see my army.
I want to see the puppet, you cowards.
Yeah, you cowards. Let me see them.
Oh man. I don't think you have, but have you watched? Are you still on just the Japanese kick? Or are you watching anything Western yet?
I've watched some horror. I've taken a few breaks to watch some horror films, although in some cases it wasn't a break because I just watched them in Japanese. So I actually watched Fear Street.
Okay.
I watched the Fear Street trilogy in Japanese. It was pretty good. It was a weird one because it was like, I don't know how to. I don't know. I was a fan. Like it was just odd, because Fear Street is like the book series by fucking R.L. Stine.
Yeah, I was not a huge fan of the Fear Street movies. The first one was okay, but there was a part at the end that made me really, really uncomfortable, and it's not really anything in particular. But there was a part that made me very uncomfortable, and I was like, I can't finish watching this movie at this point. And you'd probably be like, in watching, most people who'd watch it be like, I wonder what the fuck Joe was talking about. But it's something that's personal, so I don't need to go into it. Right. And there was but the second one, the 80s one, I really liked. Or was whatever.
Oh no, it wasn't 80s. It was
summer camp. It was like a 70s maybe.
Yeah, it was 70s. It was late 70s.
Yeah, it was 70s because the original one was 90s.
In 1994, and then the other one was 1974.
Yeah, it was the 70s one, and then which I liked. And my problem with the fucking 90s, whenever they do fucking 90s in the movies, they get it so fucking wrong. Like,
yeah, they really do. It's like, because you know why? It's because I'll tell you exactly why. There's a very fucking specific reason. I'll tell you for Fear Street, 100%. I know it's
because they can't use the amount of racial and sexual slurs in a movie and still have it watchable.
I was going to say is that I would guess that the people who wrote that movie did not like the movie adaptation did not actually live in the 90s, so they only had like their approximation of the 90s.
Yeah,
because it's like for me, like for example, like I didn't live I was born in the 80s.
Yeah,
but I didn't fucking live in the 80s, and like I love things from the 80s, but like I mean mostly I remember those things, I'm certain, from the early 90s. This is why I'm not like a huge He-Man fan.
Yeah,
because He-Man came out I think in like 82 or 83.
I believe it was 83 was when the cartoon came out.
Right. So I mean I liked He-Man, obviously. It's it's a fucking boy toy and I was a fucking kid.
I
but
got
like
He-Man right here next to me. I'm gonna take a look. I'm gonna see if I can
but
1981, sir. 1981.
Even older. So I didn't even exist when He-Man came out. So like, I'm not like I don't have a bunch of like fuzzy He-Man memories. I do have Transformers, but Transformers went from 80s into the 90s, and then there were Transformers variants like Beast Wars. Like I would be lying if I said that like I watched the original generation. I watched that way less than I watched Beast Wars. Beast Wars was my Transformers was Beast Wars. I mean, I love the original generation. Obviously, I loved Optimus Prime. I loved the movie, and I watched. Obviously, I was a kid, so it's a fucking cartoon about robots. I'm going to watch episodes, but like, my memories are not are very, very cloudy about that. Other than I remember fucking crying my fucking eyes out when Optimus Prime died. That I remember. Well, that was like, was devastating.
I'm just a couple years older than you, so I do remember He-Man in first run. I do remember. It says right here that the cartoon debuted in '83, so I was right there. But the figures. Oh, it says the figures came out in '82, so it must have just been like copyrighted or whatever in '81. I remember,
or they did the first comics. They could have released the first comics then.
I remember all that. I remember watching Transformers, the G1 Transformers, G.I. Joe, all that stuff.
Yeah, of course. Ninja Turtles, Real Ghostbusters.
But that's beside the point. So, but the people with the 90s, though, my feeling is that if people really like, and granted, my slice of life at the 1990s was the South Side of Chicago, and a lot of punk shows, but yeah, the amount of racial and sexual slurs that were thrown out at that time were. It's unbelievable. Like it's disgusting when I think back of that. Like holy fuck, how the hell was I allowed to talk the way that I talk?
You know why? It's because the 90s was the actual edgy attitude era was actually the 90s, man.
Yeah,
it's fucking true. Everyone was a fucking edgelord. Everyone was an edgelord in the 90s. Just think of every advertising campaign that was not targeted at like old people in the 90s.
Yeah,
all of it was like Super Nintendo, play it loud, and like Genesis is like all the very everything was like Sega, and like they're all fucking pierced and like yeah.
That's why my biggest complaint about 90s movies is that I will say this anytime a movie takes place in the 1990s, I'm like, the clothes are too tight. The clothes in the 1990s were so fucking baggy and huge.
Dude, you just all you need to do is just need to look at the Power Rangers from the original Power Ranger series, look at their human outfits, and it's just like, that's about right.
I mean, seriously, it's like, it's not that hard. You just have to buy the clothes. The clothes just have to look very unflattering. And that's just the style at the time. Like when I see a girl in a 90s movie and she's not wearing 3 layers of clothing, like, you're doing it wrong. Like
it's what is it? It's a I don't know. There's probably a better word for it. It's good old days isms.
I guess. Like, yes, girls did wear tank tops with string straps, like, or not tank tops, but I guess tank tops. They with string straps, and they did wear chokers. Like, yes, I did see that on occasion, but that was the exception. Like, most of the time, girls would wear a long sleeve sweater or with a t-shirt over it, and then a cardigan over that. Like, that was more often. And then they would chew holes into the sleeves so that they could stick their thumb through the holes in the sleeves. Like, that was the style at the time.
The thumbs through the sleeves. I had that on my hoodies too.
Yeah.
Yep. Like, absolutely.
Like
that was huge.
Exactly.
It was huge. Everyone did that. It was like you were not cool if your thumb was not coming through the sleeve of your hoodie.
And the pants had to be so big that you could, like, your friend could literally get in them with you. Like
the Jinkos.
Yeah, Jinkos were really big.
Jinko jeans where you look like you're wearing like a fucking circus tent.
But I mean, like, even like going back, like, even before Jinkos were a thing, it was like the bigger and baggier the better, and they never get that right in movies. But anyway, I wanted
not everyone though, because Jerry always wore tight clothes in Seinfeld.
Yeah, but Jerry in Seinfeld was also a character from the 80s. You got to remember that he was already he already had his style established before Seinfeld was even a thing.
Plus, I mean, everyone knows that the ultimate drip character in Seinfeld is George, of course. It's Gore-Tex. It's Gore-Tex. You ever see there's a fucking picture of him in that fucking Gore-Tex thing where, and then they put him in the fucking Russian hat and they just put the Supreme logos on both, and some dude was just and some dude was just like, he's just like, I pay $10,000 for that Supreme jacket.
Exactly. Like it is not unusual, but yeah,
it's great.
But I did like the 70s Fear Street, getting back to that, and then the 1600s one was okay. Overall it was fine. It was a fine Halloween watch. I was okay with it.
I mean, it wasn't fucking incredible or anything, but it was like it was surprisingly gory for a fucking R.L. Stine thing. I was like, oh no shit, it's like a legit like R-rated movie. Like I was expecting it to be a little bit I was expecting cheesy PG-13 horror movies, but they are not cheesy PG-13 horror movies. No. They're legit R-rated. Like I would argue to say, like, I wouldn't say they're gore fests, but the deaths are very gory. Like very gory. Which
is part of the problem, is that it had a PG-13 aesthetic with rated R kills.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just, I kind of felt like it tried to straddle that line too much. That was my complaint.
I agree. I can see that. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, but that's what I watched recently. And then other than that, I watched Dead Wax on Shudder.
Yeah.
Which I recommend. I think it's interesting. It's short. Whether or not it's a mini series, but I think all told, if you just watch all the episodes back to back, it's roughly the length of like a standard horror film, because it's like 10-minute episodes. They're like super short. So it's like because I think when they first started airing it, they released each episode like a week. So you just had like 10 minutes, and then next week you'd get the other 10-minute episode. But Dead Wax was really good. And then Host. I think I mentioned Host before, but I watched that. It's a haunted Zoom call. It's really good. It's really well done.
Yeah. So you haven't watched any of Wheel of Time, have you?
I have not. I didn't even realize that there was a Wheel of Time show.
There is a Wheel of Time show. It is on Amazon. You were aware of what Wheel of Time is, right?
Oh, absolutely. Wheel of Time is a series that I've always known has existed. Yeah. And because I remember there was the card game.
Yeah, there was the card game. Yes,
I played the card game, knowing absolutely nothing about Wheel of Time. I played the card game because I had dude my itis for card games in like the late, like from Magic to like, I don't know, like 2010 maybe. Dude, I still have remnants of my card game itis, but like nothing compared to that like gap where I was just like, it's a card game, I'm playing it. Like literally, like every card game that got released, I tried every single collectible card game that got released. It was insane. I was a fucking crazy person. I'm still a crazy person, just in different ways now. But yeah, so yeah, I know nothing about Wheel of Time other than like the series is really long, beloved, fantasy, very cool. Original author died, and the story's unfinished, and like they're like cobbling together an ending, or did cobble together an ending, but it doesn't matter because it's not the author's ending, so who cares?
Okay, so the Robert Jordan did put together the ending. He actually knew he was dying, so he put together all of his notes and everything and gave it to I want to say it was Brandon Sanderson, who is another established writer, who he said, like, this is how I want it to end. This is how it's going to end. And from what I've been told by people, it actually ended fairly well because Robert Jordan got a little long-winded towards the end with some of the books. So like the ending, like I think it was like 3-book ending, actually ended it fairly well.
Oh, that's good. So it's not a Dune situation?
No, it's not. Well, I mean, Dune wasn't really, well, I don't think that was it Frank Herbert had an ending in mind for Dune. Like I don't think there was ever going to be an ending for Dune.
I see. Well, I mean, I guess meant more in the like Frank Herbert died and then his kid started writing books and his books suck.
Oh yeah. It wasn't that type of situation. No.
That's the situation, because like
some people really like those books though.
That's fine. People can that goes back to the very beginning of what we discussed.
Yeah.
People you can like anything. You can like any fucking thing you want.
I was going to say though, for Wheel of Time, do you remember the RPG for Wheel of Time that they put out?
I never played it. I never played it, but I definitely remember it on the shelf because it had a very cool cover.
It did have a very cool cover. It looked very high fantasy, which I loved about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It looked like it was like, you think there's gonna be fucking wizards in this game? Look at this cover. You fucking know there's fucking wizards in this game, bro.
But for anybody, so I would say like the show is fine. I'm not like, it reminds me I've only read the first book and a half of Wheel of Time. I know that's sad for me to say as a card carrying nerd, but fuck, I couldn't get through that second book. I tried so hard.
Oh yeah.
I tried like twice to get through it and I just couldn't do it. But the first book I really like. It's very, very great beginner high fantasy.
Okay.
Highly recommended if someone would like to get into high fantasy. Problem is it's kind of like getting back. It's kind of 90s. So if you're used to tropes that have gone out of style, if you're not used to tropes that have gone out of style and fashion at this point, it could get a little
could get off-putting.
It could be a little off-putting. Like it does have a lot of white male savior complex, and it does have a lot of women are kind of evil. It's not terrible. Like the female characters, I think, are written very well, but it's out of date. Let's just put it that way. Right.
Okay. This tin of beans is expired, mate. But they still taste okay. Tastes kind of funny.
Yeah, exactly. It's got a lot of that. It's like especially if you're not used to that. But I remember that the role-playing game for the, I think Wizard of the Coast put out was fantastic. It was Last Unicorn wrote it. Wizard of the Coast, I think, distributed it. But it was based off the D20 system for third ed.
Right.
So if you like D&D third ed with the feats and skills, this is the game for you.
There's a lot of variants. I found that there's actually more, in my opinion, like I was thinking about this funny because I was talking to Angel Baker about RPG stuff because he's the person I talk to the most about RPG things because he's playing games and like he deals with a lot of like people in like the tabletop world who are playing games. We talk about how like everyone's really cringe and just trying to make podcast characters.
Yes.
But one of the things I was thinking about, and I was like, actually a lot of games that weren't D&D but used D20 were absolutely better than D&D. And it sounds like Wheel of Time was one of those. Yeah,
I mean, the only problem is that you really kind of have to know the world in order to play the Wheel of Time game.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because the Star Wars one was way better. Because Star Wars D20 way better than Dungeons and Dragons because they were the ones that used the vitality system, which is if you score a critical hit, you ignore the hit points, you go straight to the vitality, and you can ice people super fast. That was really cool. That made a lot, and that also added like that made you could set up really cool builds of characters where like if you made an assassin character, you just try to be fishing for critical hits, which is neat. Like that's like a cool design. It's different. And then that was a good system. That was much better than third ed in my opinion.
That was a good system.
Well, because third ed got to the point where it was just like everyone was just giant balloons of HP.
Yeah.
And so like fights were like it was just really boring because a fight would start and then like it would just become like a grind. Like everyone would just be, it would like, it was like every single fight was just like a meat grinder because like everyone's HP was so fucking high. And like if you look at some of the attack bonuses of some of the higher level monsters and then you look at their HP, just like even just glancing at it, you're like this fight's gonna take fucking forever.
Yeah, I mean I started Wheel of Time. I went back and I had a PDF of the rule book and I was looking at it, it's like, fuck, this was a really good fucking rule book. It says that it dropped in 2001 and the game consisted of 2 publications published in October 2001. And then shortly after the release of the only other book they ever did, Prophecy of the Dragon, Wizard of the Coast confirmed that they would not proceed in further expansions of the game, and the role-playing rights reverted back to the estate of Robert Jordan. So the game was only published for like 2 years in the early 2000s. If you can find it, I would highly recommend it. You could find
as long as you know the universe, so you can make a character that works.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, it's like one of the most popular book series of all time. It's probably
it's super popular.
I would say it's probably some people's number 2 all-time fantasy series. For some people.
Number one? Do you think number 1 is Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, number 1 is Lord of the Rings by default. It's like saying Citizen Kane. Like, what's the best movie of all time? Citizen Kane. What's the best? What's the best RPG? And what's the best fantasy book series of all time? Lord of the Rings. Okay, now that we're past that, what's your actual best?
Got it.
You know what I'm saying? Like your number 2 is your actual favorite. Your number 1 is just what you're putting out there to placate the masses or placate the critics, you know? So it's like,
I mean, I have to think about it, but I think like Lord of the Rings is probably is my favorite fantasy thing, actually. It's because like I really like Lord of the Rings. I was trying to think of like other fantasy stuff I like. Like honestly, like I never really got super into a lot of like raw fantasy other than Lord of the. It's like Lord of the Rings and then Western fantasies, but Japanese anime. So like a Record of Lodoss War, which is
I would give you Record of War, but I mean that's not a novel though.
The anime isn't. There technically is a book series. Like you can read the books if you want.
Is that manga or is it a book?
It was books. It was books first.
Okay.
Yeah, it was novels first. It was written in now because it was based on an actual play of sessions, and the dude just like converted their game sessions into, he added prose to their game sessions. like this is basically what he did, and then bam, suddenly you have Record of Lodoss War. Very cool.
Bam, you got Record of Lodoss War.
Yeah, and then like now like more recently you've got like Goblin Slayer, I guess.
Goblin Slayer is big. I know that.
Berserk. Mm-hmm. Berserk is fucking huge, super good and super cool. But yeah, like as far as like book series goes, like I never really got into too many. There was one series I definitely read. It's been forever, but it was like a 2 or 3 book series. It was like a group of like mercenaries or something, and
the Black Company.
Black Company, yeah. That was
Black Company is a really great series. The fucking Drizzt series from the D&D, the Drizzt.
I'm full disclosure, bro. I've never read a single Dungeons and Dragons book in my life.
I read 2 Drizzt books. They're fine. It's just that I read them after I read other fantasy series, and I realized how mediocre the Drizzt series was. So
I see. I've never read a Dungeons and Dragons book. Not that I can. No, not once. I've read tons of Dungeons and Dragons fiction inside the books. So like lore wise, like I know who Strahd is. I know all about Ravenloft, but I've never read a Ravenloft novel.
Dark Tower. You ever read the Dark Tower series?
I never read the Dark Tower series,
okay.
But everyone, obviously says it's dope. I started the movie and I did not watch more than 20
from what
minutes.
I hear, the movie is terrible. I never watched the movie, but I read a couple of those. They're fine. I never finished the series because I didn't really care that much. What's Song of Ice and Fire?
Oh yes. I only read A Game of Thrones. It's the only book I read in that series.
Yeah, I mean, what's the Mistborn, Earthsea, Dragon Riders of Pern.
I watched the Earthsea
Chronicles
anime.
of Amber.
There's a legit Earthsea anime, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. Oh, didn't Miyazaki like his son do that? I think.
Yeah. It's someone. It was no. He like. I don't think it was his son. It might be his son. I don't know. It was
Ghibli, but it wasn't Miyazaki.
Yes, it was someone who has some relation to because the Tales from Earthsea movie was not done by Ghibli.
Oh,
but
wasn't?
But everyone who was involved has some sort of relation to Ghibli. It's like when a bunch of ex-Disney employees like get together and
put out American Tail, Five Goes West.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. I said Earthsea, Dresden Files.
You consider Dresden Files fantasy? I was like,
it's urban fantasy.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's wizards, Steve. There's wizards.
Then we got to count Shadowrun.
Yes, Shadowrun, but Shadowrun's kind of like sci-fi fantasy. Shadowrun's weird. It's its own thing. It's cyberpunk fantasy. It's bizarre.
It's cyberpunk, but there's a troll and a dragon.
Yes. The 2 that I really like, I like the First Law series. If you ever read that one, which I've been highly recommending for years. Read the fucking First Law trilogy, or the whole series. I think there's 9 books at this point. The Gentlemen Bastards. The Liza Locke Lamora. I don't know if you ever heard of that one. I like that one quite a bit. It's like it takes place in a fantasy version of Venice. So there's lots of canals.
All right.
And I hate
I still remember the first time I saw that word. I tried to read it and I said canal.
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 Malazan, which is probably in top 5 for many readers. I don't like that because it's a very long, extended, very complicated D&D campaign.
Yeah, that's no good.
King Killer Chronicles. That's Patrick Rothfuss, who can't do more than 2 books, and everyone's trying to strangle him to get the last book out. I don't like it because it's very Mary Sue, and every time I say it's like that book is very Mary Sue. Like the shit that happens to that character should not happen in any fantasy book. Like when you do, like if I was reading that as an author, I'd be like, that is too unbelievable. It's too Mary Sue. And people are like, well, you got to realize that the main character is kind of an unreliable narrator. I go, no, that's not what unreliable narrator is. You're talking to an English major, you jackass. That's Mary Sue. It's not unreliable narrator. Like the only way that at this point, the only way that he could pull back on and pull the unreliable narrator card is in the 3rd book. He says, everything that I told you in the first 2 books is a lie. And if he did that, that's such a disrespect to the reader that I would punch him in the face.
To me, I would be like, that's legendary.
It's a huge troll at that point.
Yeah.
Redwall. Have you ever read? You like Redwall?
That's the mouses, right?
Yeah, it's the mouses.
Yes, I'm a fan of Redwall.
This is Shannara books. This is Chronicles of Shannara.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually met Terry Brooks and got that signed.
Nice.
And but yeah, those are. I was just looking at my bookshelves, so I'm sorry on that one.
I liked it. It was good.
Oh, and which I think is a very underrated book series, fantasy book series that people are like, oh, whatever, is the Felix and Gotrek books.
Yeah, Felix and Gotrek's pretty sweet.
Those were banger reads, and I think people don't give them enough credit.
You know why?
Because it's
buddy
Warhammer.
cop.
What?
Buddy cop. Buddy cop.
Buddy cop.
It's a buddy cop.
It is. It's kind of buddy cop.
I mean, minus the cop part. There's no cop, but like the formula is a buddy cop film, in my opinion. You know, like the two really different characters who like come together to overcome the said odds with, you know, hijinks ensuing. To me, that's what Gotrek and Felix is. It feels like, to me, like if I was gonna write the screenplay and I wanted to punch up and make it as exciting as possible, I would probably just like legit just like riff of like Tango and Cash or something, and just like make Tango and Cash and just like swap around the characters for Gotrek and Felix, something like that.
That's my complaint about Hawkeye on Disney Plus right now. It's actually kind of a fun show, but the problem is it's trying to be a 1980s buddy cop Christmas movie, right? Like a John McTiernan, Rennie Harlan, Richard Donner style action movie of the 1980s. You know, think Die Hard, Lethal Weapon, Turner and Hooch, Tango and Cash, right? It's trying to be that, but it doesn't have the snappy dialogue of those movies, which, to be honest, a lot of the snappy dialogue had a lot of curse words and racial slurs in them. Let's be honest there, but like that's what that show's trying to do. But Disney could never allow it to be what it wants to be, because what it wants to be is not marketable anymore. So so that's where it fails a little bit. It never quite achieves that like that Lethal Weapon style, you know, buddy camaraderie with its 2 leads, because they can't actually have those arguments that they had in Lethal Weapon. You know, like Hawkeye can't do cocaine and then go on a like arrow shooting rampage.
Oh man,
know, like Murtaugh or Riggs.
It'd be dope as shit if he did. Yeah, it'd be dope as shit if he did.
Shit if he did. Holy fuck! Yeah. If they did a scene in Hawkeye where like Hawkeye interrupts a cocaine deal and like sniffs a bunch of the cocaine himself, and he's like, "This is fucking fantastic," and he's like just starts killing people with arrows. That would be the greatest TV show of all time.
I'm down.
Yeah, and that's my problem, is like all that Disney shit, all those Marvel movies, they try to be a genre that they're not allowed to be.
Right, they can never break a barrier because they have to stay as safe as possible.
Exactly. So like you can't. So like Hawkeye can't do it. So it's like it's got all the tropes. It looks kind of like it's shot by, let's say, a 1980s Richard Donner, or who directed John McTiernan, without having to go to jail, because he was arrested. But yeah, it has that feel to it. The action doesn't feel as good as like a John McTiernan action sequence, but you can't get John McTiernan because he went to jail.
Right.
I said they should have got Rennie Harlan because I don't think Rennie Harlan's doing shit nowadays.
No,
but they could get him. Richard Donner's dead.
Right.
Yeah, and get Shane Black to write it because Shane Black already wrote Iron Man 3. Get Shane Black to write Hawkeye, and it would be fucking fantastic. But whatever. No one ever listens to me.
That's a shame.
All right, I think we're way over at this point.
Yeah, it was good though. It was good. It was fun.
Yes. We didn't talk that much about gaming, but I do appreciate always talking about fantasy literature, something we don't talk that much about. You know what I got to do one of these days?
We had a Ramblecast, but it was all right.
Yeah, Ramblecast. That's what I'll call it. So I'll just call it Ramblecast. I think that if nothing big pops up before the next cast, what I really want to do is I really want to break down why I should be the editor of the Horus Heresy series of books.
that sounds like something that would be hotly anticipated by our listener when
our listener
for the next podcast.
And what the fuck else are we going to talk about? Like Adepticon released its slate of events, which was, guess what? A bunch of fucking tournaments. Yay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, we get it. It's fine.
Yep.
What I want to do for Adepticon though is I think I've talked about this with you before. I don't know if I've ever talked about it on the cast, but I want to do a specialist game, but on a grand scale.
Okay.
So like I want to do like a 28 millimeter version of Battlefleet Gothic.
Okay.
It wouldn't be 28 millimeter scale, but let's say like a big version of Battlefleet Gothic, like where the ships are like a foot long, right? Like I would 3D print them, make these gigantic ships, and then just we would play Battlefleet. I would spray paint the ships, and we would play like a giant version of Battlefleet Gothic, or like Aeronautica Imperialis, like just get like fucking 28 millimeter version of that. Or I think they do a 28 millimeter version of what's it called, fucking Titanicus.
Oh yeah,
but I would like to do something like maybe even make it like go back older, like let's do a 28 millimeter version of Bomber over the Sulphur River, or something like that.
I like it.
You like it?
Yeah, I like it. I think you should do it.
We'll do a 28 millimeter version of Epic 40K. Oh, so you mean Warhammer 40K? No, yeah. I want a 28 millimeter version of Epic 40K.
Yeah, so Warhammer 40K. I like it.
Yeah, 28 millimeter version of War Master. Oh, you mean Kings of War? Yes.
Yes. It's good.
But yes, I think like I would really like to go into my because it's close to the end. I think there's only 2 more books left in the Horus Heresy series. Like they have the Siege of Terra, and there's 2 more books. I would love to just go over like why they needed a strong editor from the beginning to kind of rope everything together, because there are so many fucking problems with those books.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
There's some of them are so fucking fantastic, but it's a 60 book cycle, and it should not be as rambly as it is for 60 books. Saying from a guy who just did an 1.5-hour podcast where we just rambled about random things.
Like, I mean, to be fair, an 1.5 hours is a big difference from reading fucking 60 books, man.
Yeah, I mean, like that's close to, let's see, 60 books. Each book is about 12, let's say 10 hours. So 600 hours. How many? That's a lot of hours.
It's a lot of hours, man.
I'm just trying to figure out, that's like a year's worth of listening at least.
Yeah.
Like as long as you get 8 hours of sleep. Yep. But still, it's still a lot. And you know what? About a third of those books should have never been written. But I'll go more into that sometime if we have time in the future. All right,
Sounds
so
good.
go to the Game Classy Facebook page. Is the best way you can get in contact with us. You can like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe on the iTunes. The best way you can help out the podcast. If you'd like to get in contact with me, with us, you can do it on the Facebook page. We're always watching. We're always listening.
You can also tweet me at @command_throw.
Yes, and you could look at my pictures of my minis on Instagram at GameClassyJoe. I don't use Twitter because I find it insists upon itself.
It is social media. That's the thing.
It is social media. It does. I'm the centrist griller when it comes to where social media is concerned.
Who's trying to grill?
The guy, I just want to
Yeah.
grill. Like that's
The centrist griller memes. Yes.
Yeah. I'm that's with me on Instagram or any of my social media aside from this specific podcast is mostly
like
just
it.
me like I just want to look at pictures of minis. That's it. I
I
don't
like it.
care about your political opinions or anything like that because I've carefully cultivated all of my social media so that I only see the opinions of people that I care about. And the people that I care about's opinions generally reflect the opinions of myself. So
I just want to see.
Yeah.
I just want to see art of people fucking.
Yeah. Steve just wants to see, anime titties.
Porn. Just straight up. No, if it's illustrated porn, I'm probably into it. Doesn't matter what it is.
It's
I like illustrated porn. I'm a fan.
All right. So Steve, until next time.
Shit. I had a good one and I fucking forgot it. Ah well.
All righty. Bye.
Bye.
Game Classy.